God said the future is bright. Hey guys, it's John here in the studio this morning. I actually went out on the back deck this morning and recorded for a good length of time, and then came in and realized that for some reason my microphone had gotten dislodged from the side of my camera, and I picked up no audio, so I had these beautiful videos with no audio. So now I'm sitting in the studio going, oh, I'm not going back on the back deck because it's a little chilly this morning, surprisingly, but I am drinking a mug of coffee. And in here, I have a mug warmer on the desk so I can keep it warm, which is even better. I wanted to hop on and talk about the idea of the future being bright and God specifically saying the future will be bright. You know, there are so many people who lean into all the fear and judgment and damnation and burning in hell and that's in the Bible. But the Bible has a lot of quotes in there that are very positive. But they're not the ones that people are leaning into. They're not the ones that are loving them. They're leaning into the ones that are more fearful because they're in this space of using fear as the tool to put people in their place. I wanted to just go through a couple of different quotes in the Bible and look at them from a bright future perspective. You know, in the book of Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Now, I don't believe that we're subjugated to the plans of God or the will of God. I don't believe there's an external God who's not giving us the opportunity to have free will. I believe that God is love, right? So if you buy into this quote here, then you have to believe that God is on your side. God wants to prosper you. God does not going to harm you, and he plans to give you a hope and a future, which means the future is bright. Because if God plans it, which like I say, I don't believe that God plans for us, but if God plans for that to be the case, isn't God the omnipotent one who can make anything happen? So obviously, if God plans for that to happen, then you're going to prosper, you're not going to be harmed, and you're going to have hope and a beautiful future. Now, if you look at this from another perspective, coming into the book of Luke, 11:36, if you are filled with light with no dark corners, then your whole life will be radiant, as though a floodlight were filling you with light. If you are filled with light, with no dark corners, it's a matter of being love as opposed to fear. The dark corners is just your fears, it's your anxieties, it's your stresses. But if you're just filled with light and loving and caring and putting your love into the world and expressing it to people around you in beautiful, loving ways, then your whole life will be radiant as though a floodlight is filling you with light. I love the picture of the floodlight, right? Now, this comes from the New International Versions, so it's more modernized language than a lot of the older ones, but they all pretty much say the same thing. But the floodlight coming back and filling you with light, it basically is saying if you're putting out the light, then the light comes back to you tenfold. It comes back to you more abundantly, and it fills you with light, but not just equal measure. A floodlight comes back and hits you. So, you look at this thing, there's a plan to prosper you, not to harm you, and give you hope. If you're filled with light and your whole life is radiant, then the light will shine back upon you, which will give you that hope and that future and that no harm and prosperity. It really comes down to these two quotes are not antithetical to one another. But where they kind of part company is this idea of an external God we're subjugated to. If you are filled with light, is you being filled with light, you choosing to be filled with light, you creating the no dark corners within yourself, then your whole life will be radiant as though a floodlight were filling you. It's a conscious choice to be the light. It's a conscious choice to be love. It's a conscious choice to have no dark corners. And when you look at it from the perspective of, if if you're consciously choosing that, and then God has this plan that you're going to prosper and not be harmed, and you're going to have hope in the future, then your future is beautiful. Your future is directly beautiful in regard. Now, where a lot of people would struggle with this is because one of these is Old Testament, one of these is New Testament. And the Old Testament version has the subjugative God that says that, I have these plans for you. I know the plans I have for you. And the other one says if you're filled with light, it's talking about you being filled with light. So that's the New Testament. Luke comes from the New Testament. So you have these dichotomies of the fearful, vengeful, jealous God and the loving God. But in both of these, they're both saying that your future is bright. Your future is bright. So why focus on the negativity? Why turn the news on and start buying into people's fearful future to get you to vote for them? Why lean into judging people for their race, their creed, their color, their sexual orientation? Why lean into any of that? Because that's just the darkness. That's just the fear. That's just the anxiety. That's the stresses of the world that are not loving, not caring, and in reality, what they are is you leaning into your own darkness. But if you are filled with light, no dark corners, your whole life will be radiant. It comes down to you stepping into that space and realizing that you have all the power, and that the universe, God, consciousness, has this ability for you to prosper and not be harmed. But for that floodlight to come back and shine on you and have that prosperity and hope and a future, it still comes down to you and the Father, Mother, God, Goddess as one. I think those labels are ridiculous. I just say God because there's no gender in it. It's just God. That's the reason why Allah is the word for God in Islam, because it has no gender. It's just Allah, right? Is the future bright? The future is bright if you choose to shine the light. Because if you're filled with that light and there's no dark corners, your whole life will be radiant. And you will have hope and a future. Because it comes back to you realizing that you have this ability to create a beautiful, loving world around yourself. And you can do it. I have complete faith in you. And I already love you. And I hope that you take that love that you have within you and love another. I leave you one commandment: love one another. So that's a pretty good quote, too. That's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See you. Bye.